If this is not a George Harvey night fly, I sure hope somebody will see this knowing that it's not and let me know, because I am calling it a George Harvey night fly. I am tying it from the recipe in The Founding Flies by Mike Valla. The reason I question the name of the fly, or that this is actually what the fly is supposed to look like, is that even though I am following the recipe and did do a little bit of other poking around on the internet to see how others might have tied it, this is not at all what the picture of the fly in the book looks like. I am tying it on a number 4 4x long hook. Harvey tied his night flies on anything from a 2/0 down to an 8. I did put the optional tail in, 2 fairly stiff black hackle feathers. I laid them back to back so that they would hopefully kind of separate back here at the tail. And I did tie them the whole length of the shank because I'm trying to build up the size of the body. And then I'm tying in a black hackle feather that I will palmer over the body. The body can be either chenille or black dubbing, and so I do have some black dubbing. I think chenille gives it too fine of a body, but I also need to wrap the dubbing fairly loose, try to build up a good body on it. And on a long hook like this, it just takes some time to get the dubbing wrapped on the thread, or spun on the thread, and then wrapped up over the hook. Just trying to build the size as I go. And try to taper it, get heavier towards the middle and front of the hook. When I do get up behind the eye, I have that space behind the eye that I've left intentionally bare because I want to remind myself to try to get kind of a sharp cutoff there with the dubbing, because I want to have a shoulder to tie in the wing feathers. And it is a very different kind of wing on this fly. Harvey called the wings kickers because of the way they're tied in. They produce a particular kind of motion on the water. And although he intended it to be a dry fly, he said he caught the most fish on it when he was retrieving it kind of just below the surface of the water. A little bit more here to kind of build up that body behind the eye. Well, a little bit. It's quite a little bit more. All right, that'll work. And then I will palmer this hackle. So spiral wrap it. And I guess that's part of what helps it to float, if it is indeed going to be fished as a dry fly. And the hackle is fairly oversized as well. I'll catch in that stem, do my 3 over the top wraps, fold it back, wrap underneath of it, and give that a clip. And I have another black hackle feather that I've given a crew cut. And the crew cut is when you cut the barbs right at the butt of the feather to help tie in. You're not tying over barbs, but the clipped barbs help give the thread something to grab onto. The recipe in Mike Valla's book says that it can be black or dark dun hackle. So I'm just putting a front kind of collar on it. Where if the feather that I had palmered had been long enough, I probably would not have had to do that. But I didn't have a long enough hackle feather with short enough hackles. I mean, these are overlong hackles, but the longer hackle feathers have really long barbs on them, so I didn't want that. So then the wing that I'm using are these pheasant feathers. They call these stained glass, but the recipe just says pheasant body feathers. I've clipped those to size and also given them a crew cut, and then I'm tying them in on the side with the top of the feather towards the body of the fly, so that they stick out to the side. And I'll turn it over so I can do the one on the other side. I pre-cut those feathers so that they're both the same size. And they're supposed to be a stiff feather. And I think this is the best of the pheasant body feathers that I found to do this with. So you can see how those go out to the sides and create a particular motion as that's dragged through the water. I have a hackle feather out there that I don't want. I'll clip that out of there. And then I'll go and wrap right behind the eye and then back up over and grabbed another hackle feather that I don't want caught in there. I'll clip that out. And I think I'm good on my head. I'll go ahead and whip finish that. So that's how those wing feathers look on the side to do that particular motion that George Harvey discovered. I will put a drop of head cement. I use a diluted Goop. I'll put a recipe for the Goop in the description. George Harvey's night fly.